Under the thick blanket of night at Sandringham Estate, a cloak-and-dagger family summit commenced in the early morning hours as King Charles III moved to excise the last remnants of Prince Harry's deteriorating ties to the crown. In an atmosphere cloaked in royal outrage and shrouded by shadowy secrecy, the 74-year-old monarch issued an undisclosed directive summoning his two eldest children William and Anne to help catalyze the exiled Duke's permanent severing from the House of Windsor. While no official statements have yet surfaced publicly acknowledging the covert proceedings, multiple sources with knowledge of the high-stakes rendezvous confirmed its sole purpose centered around stripping Harry of his few remaining titles, military appointments, and privileges as tensions reach uncharted new levels of deterioration. According to one highly placed palace insider speaking under condition of anonymity, the late-night gathering in Norfolk represented a line-crossing point of no return for the king regarding his outcast son's future status. Make no mistake, this intended to be nothing short of a corporate reorganization meeting called in the quintessential cannabis hour to effectuate downsizing the firm's increasingly flabby branch, having furred too at Stanford from excesses without reining them in, the insider divulged in a clandestine communication. Per the crystalline protocols conveyed in his agenda minutes, the king explicitly stated his goal, declaring redundancy termination for the entirety of Prince Harry's lingering associations. Although simmering acrimony between the Duke and senior working royals dates back years to his decision abandoning official duties, the exiled prince has maintained vestiges of his former standing within the House of Windsor. These have included holding onto his treasured honorary military titles received through his service in Afghanistan, as well as his place potentially still within the line of succession. However, several new integrity tripwires triggered by the runaway success of his blockbuster memoir Spare and subsequent nuclear truth-bombing interviews appear to have exhausted King Charles's tolerance for further aggression. For months, the men in grey have tried reiterating the party line about not negotiating headhunting demands, and for a while the king hoped his prodigal progeny might accept a more localized severance package once exhausting his verbal grenades, the source explained, referencing the Buckingham Palace chambers where top household administrators craft policy doctrines. Alas, the slings kept coming from Shea, California without any observable pause, never more so than inflammatory remarks in that seated-piece castigating the Prince of Wales's parenting merits. That was the bridge too far for His Majesty, who clearly has lost all patience with preserving niceties and avoiding triage for this bursting boil once and for all. While few credible specifics have emerged concerning the nature of resolutions reached, if implemented, Harry would stand to lose one of his last ceremonial associations with the crown he so vehemently renounced, that of being a Counselor of State. The archaic designation permits select members of the royal family to assume temporary regency whenever necessitated by a monarch's foreign travel or incapacitation. Already having been sidelined from inheriting the coveted military titles previously obtained through merit as an army officer following his estrangement, this latest deprivation would effectively annihilate any residual executive authority the outcast prince once wielded. We're talking treatment significantly more severe than merely revoking a couple of patronages or stripping standard royal highnesses, which has happened before to other lesser grifters getting polonium poisoning in the Commonwealth cash flow, surmised the source regarding the high-stakes sit-down serious repercussions. This entire Solomonic tete-a-tete from His Majesty alluded to words like dissolution and liquidation when cautioning the princes about respecting radio silence moving forward. Not for nothing, but some ciphers are even speculating it could go so far as reproducing those medieval, undoing rituals never invoked since the Tudor epoch to legally dissolve all princely imprimaturs from the family rolls extraterritorially. Like any documented purgation procedures within the stratified bowels of the system, as the firm's military-industrial innards are referred to in code, such a sanctions process remained governed by stringent bureaucracy and rubber stamps. King Charles, therefore, compelled his two eldest children's weighted counsel for achieving royal compliance with his alleged wishes for curtailing Harry's nominal privileges across multiple jurisdictions and operating territories still falling under Commonwealth sovereign peripheries. The gravity of their authorization proved critical after numerous procedural hang-ups involving the Herculean Privy Council process overdramatically stalling past attempts to simply eliminate him from the line of succession. As acting commander of the Commonwealth realms, His Majesty hoped enlisting their full-throated advocacy would remove any wiggle room from the Chilly Islands on down when hitting the nuclear Swiss watch button on all this overprivileged baggage, the source stated in blunt acknowledgement of the geopolitical minefield requiring navigation. Both the prince and princess understand how the Sauver affair backfired decades ago amid accusations of lackadaisical handling on hostile engagements across spheres of influence. So their buy-in remains instrumental for withstanding any external rabble-rousings about overstepping with colonial resonance. For her part, the Princess Royal appears to share her elder brother's bellicose skepticism regarding the exiled duke's misguided motivations for allegedly monetizing familial conflicts through lucrative media gambits. When his memoirs threatened becoming runaway bestsellers in January, and infamously doubled down on an earlier public admonition that Harry had failed to grasp repercussions surrounding the same pitch of his dices against the House of Windsor's reputation. Garnering her independent signature as paterfamilias overseeing bureaucratic militancy likely stood as a mandatory sign of unassailable dynastic unity for descendants of Queen Elizabeth II. At the end of the day, and will do as her doting parents trained her from the womb, acting as a coldly calculating power broker who optimizes the revenue streams across inherited territories on autopilot, offered the source. As long as King Charles presents the information dockets properly and massages her continental arrogance about following crown protocol, she already appears inclined to rubber stamp anything considered judicious pruning of stateside tabloid thistles. And yet, the more pivotal and controversial conscription into what reports indicate amounted to a digital conference corresponded to William's anticipated ascent as heir apparent. Serving as the 41-year-old future sovereign's first litmus test for asserting streaks of authoritarian ruthlessness, speculation remains rampant that his hardline stance against the Spares deterred little more the projecting backbone in a Machiavellian pivot. Those with knowledge of the two feuding brothers' rivalry suggest the Prince of Wales treated the Midnight War Room as a rare opportunity to showcase steel resolve for rewriting legacy considerations after facing criticism for being an overly